Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
I'm Janelle Pizarro.
And I'm Project Philip Von Weiss, and thank you for consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology
that love what they do.
And do tech good.
We're doing tech. Hey, everybody, we are again at the DevFest, Florida 2019.
In Orlando.
Orlando, Michigan. Florida.
I just said Florida.
Florida, sorry. At the Disney Contemporary Resort, which is an amazing facility. We're so happy to be here. It is magical. We are honored to be here. And we're joined by John Papa. Thank you so much, John.
Everybody?
That was wonderful. We're so happy to have you on the show again.
It was a long trip here.
Yeah, I bet.
Since I live in Orlando.
Right. What's a good 3-5 minutes?
At least.
I'm sorry. The struggle.
You drove a golf cart.
You know. I wish.
Oh my gosh. The Orlando life.
Right.
We don't use cars here.
No.
Hoverboards or golf carts.
Right.
But not the hoverboards, like actual hoverboards.
Oh, yeah, like in Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, yeah.
Absolutely.
Lexus built one. It looks pretty tight.
Did they?
Yeah, they built a real one.
Oh, I got to check that out.
Oh, yeah. It's like $1 million.
It works on metal surfaces.
It's a hoverboard.
It's not what I want.
What, you don't have a metal floor in your house?
I do.
You're not Black Panthering it up. What is going on?
Speaking of hoverboards, John, would you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
What?
That was a perfect segue.
I build hoverboards, I guess.
Clearly.
Come on, Brian, get with it.
Oh, man. So I'm John Papa. I work at Microsoft as a developer advocate in developer relations, lots of fancy words. I work with Node, JavaScript, full-scale architectures, Docker, cloud.
JavaScript?
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
And I build a lot of things, a lot of open source, and my favorite thing to do is come to conferences and talk to people.
Yeah, you really get out there. I see you doing all kinds of things. I saw there was a thing you did with Brandy Morgan, I think like a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have a little podcast that we do. It's a video cast thing that Burke Holland and I do. It's called 5 Things, about any topic around JavaScript, and we have Brandy Morgan on and talk about React about 5 months ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's awesome.
5 things 5 months ago. Super cute. Love it.
Yes.
Coincidence.
Yeah, check it out on the web. It's pretty cool. We make it corny too, which is kind of fun. I think you guys would like it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we love corn.
Yeah,
we love a little bit of cheese on our corn too. So.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm all about the cheese. Yeah, it's right up there.
Oh yeah,
dad jokes.
I'm a dad. I can allowed to do that.
I'm not a dad, but I love dad jokes.
I'm a dad. My son's over there. Hi, son.
Hey, buddy.
He's like,
How old's your son?
He is 9 and he's coding right now, actually.
Wow, what's he coding?
I think he's using Code Fruit, Game Fruit.
Okay.
Game Fruit. He's building a game on this one website.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Teaching the younger generations. I wish we had that when we were kids. I mean, we had it to like a certain level, but we sure didn't have like the GitHubs and things like that.
Yeah, my first experience with coding was in middle school. I actually wrote a program, I think it was a QBasic or something, where I printed out on the school's administrative printers all the report cards. All the grades.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the first time I got in trouble at school. That was fun. So worth it. So worth it.
I'm sure you got in trouble, but they were like, that's pretty good.
I'm angry, but somehow impressed as well.
We'll let your C be a B.
Security wasn't really a real thing back then, I don't think. So.
Well, yeah.
No, you can hack NASA with HTML back then.
That basically just almost destroyed the world over chess. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
That really happened too.
Real story.
Real story.
Yeah.
That was him.
That was him.
So tell us what you're going to talk about today at what, like 6,
DevFest?
7,
oh,
8
the time.
p.m., 9, 12?
2:20.
Oh, okay.
2:20.
2:20.
2:20. It's going to be Node debugging. So a lot of people write Node and JavaScript code, and they use VS Code these days. It's the most popular editor out there. Which
it
is
just
awesome.
went like that. It was
So
like
fancy.
we launched.
Fantastic.
We're the best now.
Yeah.
It's great, and I don't say it because I work for them. I actually
It is good.
really love the tool. I used to use Sublime and Atom, all these things as well, and WebStorm,
Atom.
you name it, Vim. Yeah. I've used them all. Brackets before it.
Oh God, I remember brackets.
Bad.
Oh yeah.
Kind of faded off into the distance.
That was an Adobe thing, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Is VS Code still Electron based?
Yes, it
How did
is.
they make it so fast?
That's stunning to me because
Magic.
like it's the only Electron app I have on my computer that is always fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so the talk's about this, and the real theme of it is everybody who writes JavaScript still does console.log.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. There's times to do it, but there's a lot better ways to debug these days, whether it's Angular, Vue, React, Node, and I'm going to talk about that.
Cool. So what would you say is like one of your favorite use cases of like a debugging tool? Like what do you use specifically? Like one like, I like this one with this. This one's really nice. I'm going to keep that one in my pocket forever.
Oh, there's a lot. I'll tell you one that's probably less known as opposed to something I use every day. And there's sometimes you've got a project and you have like a database reset script. A lot of times you're working on something offline and you've got your own database and you want to test it out with customers and orders. Yeah. And you're messing around, you delete all the stuff. And you're like, I just need to reset this. Yeah. So you've got a script in your project somewhere that does this. That's not part of the app or somewhere on your hard drive, and you need to debug that. Well, you've always got your debugger set up to run the main app all the time. But then you got to go figure out, well, how do I set up a debugger to point to one file and go over here? And with VS Code, there's actually a hidden gem called you can debug a relative file. So you just open the file that you want to debug, and then you can set up a quick configuration called relative file debugger. You press the button, and as long as that's the thing your cursor's in, it will start running and debugging line by line.
So you can lint just that.
Just the file that's open. It's great.
That's nice.
That's a nice edge case. I like that.
Yeah.
That is really, really nifty. What when has it been really, really important to you to debug typically?
Most of the time people call me in because I've been a consultant. I've worked on a lot of large architectures, actually at this place, Disney here. And most of the time I get called in not because things are great and wonderful. Usually when something is not going well at whatever company I've been at.
They call him the wolf. Get John on the phone.
Usually there's a lot of words that are not suitable for work. When they call me.
You fly in on the helicopter, rope down,
jumps down.
The hoverboard. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, a lot of times I come in, and one of the first things I do is, what's the error? What happened? What's the first answer? But he gives you, I have no idea. Just air it out, John. So start looking at the logs, and then just open up the debugger, run the app in the test environment, walk through it, see what's happening. And I like to debug both the server and the client using the tools, because sometimes you get a more complete picture of what's actually happening.
That's so cool. How does sorry, I'm kind of asking for myself. Please
no
don't
worries.
Judge. How does VS Code help you do those things as opposed to another editor?
Yeah.
Like using WebStorm or PHP Storm or Atom.
That's great. So let's just look at server debugging for a minute first. If you're doing server debugging, you really need something to debug it. Like if you're doing browser debugging, you could use Chrome. And I argue there's times it's better to use Chrome. And I'll talk about that. But if you're doing server debugging, whatever your editor is, first of all, I love WebStorm. I love the ReSharper suite from JetBrains, IntelliJ. It's all great. Rider. Those products sit more on the scale of editor to an IDE, if you get that swing, more on the IDE side, meaning they integrated development environment. Sorry, I hate acronyms. So they're more like, okay, everything you want to do, there's a button for it, there's a way to do it, it's out of the box. So they have debugging and things kind of built in. The advantage of VS Code is it's so fast, and everything you can do in there, you can type fast, you can edit fast, you add things in with extensions as you want them. So it's a different approach. But the downside of having a tool that's so fast is what happens when you want to debug. And that's why they've really worked on improving the debugger in VS Code, so it just works out of the box. So there really is no, I'd say, advantage if you are a WebStorm user, and that's what you know, and you've been using it for 5 years or whatever, 10 years, you can use that to debug just fine. But the nice thing with VS Code is it is probably the fastest, quickest, easiest debugger I've used in the last 5 years to hook things up. And I was a WebStorm user.
That's very
interesting. It's magic.
It's pretty darn cool.
I mean, that's the theme here is magical, right?
Yeah, that's a whole Disney thing. Yeah. What made you want to talk about this subject today?
Well, they were looking for different topics, and I work for Microsoft. I could talk about Azure and a lot of other things all day about it. And I think I did some of that last year. I talked about deploying to Azure when I was here. But one of the things I wanted to show more is wherever you're going, there are great tools at Microsoft that can really make your life easier. So even if you're using AWS or Google Cloud or Heroku or Azure, you still have to have the ability to, when you make a mistake, fix it. So I wanted to show people this because usually when I show these, people are like, I had no idea you could do that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I feel like Microsoft too is saying, hey, you're a developer, we're going to do everything for you. We're going to make it so you can run Linux on your computer. Oh, you can host with us. Oh, we have the best tool. Oh yeah, you can. We have version control. Oh, and when you want to take a break, Xbox game.
You know, my favorite thing is lately too, which is cool, and this goes into debugging, is, you know, we've got the serverless craze. You know, Google's got their serverless, Google Cloud Functions. You got Lambda, which is kind of like become like the Kleenex of tissues, right? As far as the name goes. Azure has serverless functions. We have our own, and there's a lot of others out there too. What I like about what VS Code did here is when you're writing serverless functions, you have to be able to debug them at some point. And what if you're not connected to the cloud? What if you're in an airplane? What if you're inside of Disney and you know, you don't have a connection where you are? You can actually run your Azure functions locally in your machine and start up debugger, and they'll actually run and debug locally in your machine in VS Code. Which is
that's
so
really nice.
cool.
It is really cool.
Don't need to be in the cloud, which I love the cloud, but there's times that you're like, you know what, just bring all my stuff here. You know?
I need it. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. I want to know that it's mine.
It's like a comfort food. You know? Knowing everything is local.
It's cornbread.
When everything's up in the cloud, you're like
cornbread.
I mean, we're all about the corn, right? So
popcorn.
I have, you know, kind of, I like that you have on your description that part of this debugging kind of thing is very important for, you know, pair programming. So is this more pair programming towards people who are like, you know, newer, like onboarding someone new and like, hey, this is how we debug things. Like, this is how you can get to the source of this. And, or is this more of like, hey, you know, we're like starting up an architecture kind of thing and we need to like know how to build from the ground up and debug from there?
A little of each. The thing that I find most exciting about the debugging and the pairing part of it is that while you can do all this debugging and pair, there's a feature in VS Code with an extension called Live Share. And with the Live Share extension, I could be sitting there banging my head against the wall. Like I walked in here and we were talking about how I couldn't get my demo to work. It turns out I had a port that was in use. What if I had a second set of eyes? A lot of times you have a second set of eyes, somebody else can help you do this. I could have been sitting in my hotel room and said, hey man, you got a few minutes? You're like, yeah, we're Slack or Twitter or whatever. Give you a link that lets you log in to my computer. You could, I'm on a Mac running Linux or running OS X. You could be on a machine running Ubuntu or on Windows. You don't even have to have VS Code. You could be in Visual Studio, for example. And I give you this link. He could log in, see everything I'm seeing, edit my code. We just like in Google Docs, you see a little cursor like where they are. He could start the debugger, look at my files. I give him access to my terminal, which isn't by default. You want to give access. But by doing this, you can now pair program with anybody, anywhere, anytime. Magic. And figure out what's wrong with your code.
That's amazing. That gives really a lot of like versatility to having someone even on the other side of the world, you know, be able to help you, because that's important too, right? Like sometimes you're just like, look, I need someone who doesn't think like me to look at this code, right? Like that's super awesome.
Especially for visual people. Have you ever like had a problem and you ask somebody at work, hey, I can't get this code to work. And then, you know, look at it the other way around. Someone's asking you, make my code work. You don't know what the code is, where the code is. And then they email you a file that's like, you know, here's all your code. This takes all that away and makes visual people like us say, okay, I have your context. I don't have to set up Node or anything else. It just works.
Yeah, that's super nice because like usually you have to send like a whole Slack message. Okay, so what I was trying to do was like if you click here and then you go back here and then you do this and you go like that and they're like, you know what, I don't even know how do you get to that part. I've never seen this part of the screen. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's these tools that are going to make us more efficient, put out better products faster.
It really is.
What actually made you want to get into this? Where were you in your life when you thought, you know what, I'm going to get into development?
Into software development?
Yeah.
One of the first things I did was back when I was younger, there was a game called King's Quest.
Oh, yeah.
Which there's a series of those from Sierra Games, I think is what it was. And I loved playing these games, or role-playing games at the time. Very cool. And I was like, I want to do this when I get older. And then I got in a little trouble, as I mentioned, as I went through school by doing things I shouldn't be doing with it. Not too much, obviously. But I got really interested in it, and I decided I either want to write for a living, because I love writing nonfiction, or fiction, and I love writing programs. And I just decided that I thought computers are the way to go. I mean, really interested in something from scratch. It's very cool.
I mean, but you do a little bit of both now, right?
Yeah. You still write fiction then?
I do on the side.
Okay.
Nothing public for it. I draw a lot too. So I draw a lot of cartoon characters from shows. My son and I watched The Dragon Prince on Netflix, and so I draw those characters.
Love.
And my daughter is going to college right now, actually, to be a fiction writer. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
so
Very cool.
Very cool.
That is amazing. You
First computer?
It was an IBM PC. Actually, I had a Commodore 64. We returned it and got an IBM PC Junior right after it.
Commodore 64, yeah.
Yep.
I love that thing. Did you have the little tape drive and everything?
I did. And
I was even online.
I got a defective one.
Wow.
So it was like, after like 3 defective ones in a row, then my father was like, hey, let's go get you something different. And we bought a PC Junior, which I think existed for like a minute in the timeline of the world.
Literally a minute.
Yeah. So you could really find it. It was so cool.
Article.
They had like these, they call them captain boards, where you could snap on this big piece of hardware on the side of it, which would give it more RAM.
Wow.
And I think at the time I had the board that gave me 128K of RAM.
Damn.
Wow.
You were the man.
What did
with
you do with
Oh, yeah.
all of that?
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh,
Isn't
man.
it funny that somebody's going to get, like, for their first computer, the IBM Q?
I think everyone's first computer is a memory that you have to remember too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I still have my first computer.
Do you?
You do?
I do.
What is it?
It is a Mac.
Awesome.
Which Mac?
A MacBook Air.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love it. It's my child.
Yeah. Well, MacBook Airs are awesome.
Yeah, they're
I
all
love my
cute.
Mac.
Yeah, it's my precious.
Mhm.
I find it funny though. People complain about the price of computers now. I'm like, the first computer that I myself bought and paid for myself, like that my parents did give me, was over $4,000, and like you can get so many computers for like
Less than
a couple
$1,000
hundred even
Yeah.
these
You can
days.
coupon
How much was that
them
thing?
too.
This was around 1,000, but
Yeah.
I mean that's still way less than that. And so I mean it's nice it's come down and it's so much more accessible.
Yeah, I think there's a famous quote, and I forget who says it, but it'll probably come to my mind late at night. But it's that the computer that you always want is always $5,000, and he said it like 20 years ago, and that's always been true.
It's like TVs. You ever go out and buy a new TV? Like every time there's a new, bigger, thinner, sharper TV, they're always around the same price, the starting point, and then they slowly come down over time.
Yeah.
I always seem to spend like my living room TV every about 5 to 7 years to buy a new one, the family room, and they're always about $1,000. And I'm like, how is that possible? It's always that.
Always 1,000.
The one thing I don't get is like the 8K now. Like they're going to sell
Who needs
8K.
that?
Like why do I need 8K? Do I want to see like the cells of the person on the screen?
Well,
Clearly.
PBS broadcasts in 8K, so
Do they really?
no,
Oh.
no one does.
Yeah, totally.
I believed you for a second.
Well, have you heard about the 8.3DK? That's when they're actually in the room with you, sitting on the couch. Watching.
Well, that's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want. I want that. That'd be nice.
So I have one last question for you, and this is not tech related at all. So I hope this is okay. But what is your favorite hobby, like currently?
Currently, sketchnoting.
What is that? Let's talk about it.
I love to use my hands. I'm very visual. I like a pencil and paper. So a lot of times when I go to a conference like this, what I'll do is I'll bring a notepad, moleskin, with some markers, and I'll actually sketch out as I watch the presentations. I find it a lot faster than writing words.
Yeah.
So I will sketch note out like what I saw, and then sometimes I'll share them online later. Sometimes I use them in my presentations. But like while you're talking, I can draw an icon and a symbol of what you did faster than I can type out, okay, now he opened the debugger and he's going through this, and then she did that, and then, then I've lost the next 5 minutes of what you're talking about.
Exactly. Those quick mind maps, they really help out.
And they don't have to be pretty. They just have to be what you can understand.
Mhm.
I find that later on, I'll flip through my notebook and I'll say, what did I learn there? And I'll say, oh, well, they were talking about view and they were doing this with it. Oh, I get what they did now. Because it's a visual map for yourself to see what was happening.
How do you have other people get started with that kind of thing if they're interested in doing it?
I'm going to be teaching some stuff on it soon, preparing some slide decks on it. And
Oh, nice.
a little daunting because it's totally different from what I normally do.
Yeah.
So I'll be teaching people that anybody can do this. I am not an artist by any means. Never had any drawing classes or lessons.
There's someone, I can't
figure it
remember
out.
his name, but he wrote a sketchnoting book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I cannot recall his name. Well, I'll find it and we'll put that in the show notes.
There's a couple of really good ones.
Yeah, he did a bunch of videos on techniques and wrote a really good book, and that's what got me started into sketchnoting. I do it whenever I go to comp and actually get to go to conferences and actually.
So what are some? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to know if there's any specific talks here that you're interested in seeing.
There's one at the same time as mine that I can't see.
Oh no! What's that?
Yes.
What's that?
There's one on Flutter. So some of my good friends
So many people
used to work at Microsoft and are on Flutter team now.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, funny.
And I've been wanting to check it out. I love mobile.
Yeah.
So I want to check out what's going on with that and see where it is, because I do React Native. I've done NativeScript. I've done PWAs. Done every mobile thing you do. Xamarin, native iOS, Swift. I'd like to see how Flutter works.
Just use that new 8K 3D projection TV. Record yourself and then just go to the talk.
The cloning machine would so work.
But then there'd be a battle of the Johns to decide who would, be the real John.
I think the bald one.
Battle of the Johns. So what do you have that we could help promote and get out there coming up?
I've got a new podcast that came out, I think, 3 months ago.
Okay.
It's called Real Talk JavaScript. And the idea of it is it's about real projects people built. So instead of saying, hey, there's a shiny, let's talk about Flutter. Instead of saying, hey, there's a shiny new thing like Flutter that's out there and here's how cool it is, it's more about, hey, you built something with Flutter. Here's what worked really well. Here's what you wish you knew before when you started it. Here's the challenges.
That's nice.
Just logging, debugging, like we talked here. How did it scale? What path would you wish that you went down when you started it, but you ended up wasting 2 weeks on instead?
Yeah.
And I try to get people on the show who built anything in JavaScript with any platform in JavaScript, and we talk about it. At realtalkjs.com is the website. You can check it out.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thank you.
John, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me again.
Super appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you, Janelle.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Fantastic you.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back a little bit later around 1 o'clock.
We're going to eat. We're hungry.